Hey guys, welcome back. Appreciate you joining this video. So this is going to serve as a comprehensive beginner's guide to shipping trading cards. We're going to go all the way through sending small bulk orders up to larger sealed product. Um, so we're going to start out with going through just a general list of materials. We are now Amazon affiliates, so check out the links below if there's anything that you don't have. Um, we're going to then walk through kind of the packaging, and we're going to set up bookmarks so that you'll be able to quickly refer back and find the exact section that's applicable. So feel free to watch this whole video through right now, just for awareness, but in the future, you'll be able to refer back to this, find the exact information that you need. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about shipping and kind of how we ship what we do, why we do things, particularly the way that we do, why we might pick USPS or UPS over one or the other, and a couple good things to note on all of that. I know for me personally, when I got started doing all of this, I really struggled kind of piecing together information from different content creators, watching different guides, trying to see like what really worked. You can really lose money on shipping. And as soon as you have a couple orders coming in and it's in the negatives, like you're kind of running a bad business at that point. So you have to adjust something, and shipping is something that you just need to make sure is efficient, presentable, something that you can rely on. So I wanted to put together and share this guide so that it might kind of help other people out who are going to kind of working through the same thing, especially if you're just starting out a trading card business, or maybe just kind of shipping a one-off package. This should be a great resource. So all that being said, I do want to also plug our Discord, so check out the link down below. We're trying to grow a community, TCG business owners, whether you're a veteran owner who has had a business for multiple years and you're continually kind of growing in this space, if you're just starting out or considering starting out, or if you're just a collector. So we're sourcing a ton of different TCG news, whether it's Pokemon, Magic, Bandai, which would be like Gundam, Digimon, Union Arena, bringing all that into one place. We're also starting to do monthly giveaways, so make sure to check that out. This month we're going to be giving away some Glory of Team Rocket, the Japanese set, booster packs, and then that's all kind of in anticipation of Destined Rivals, the English set, coming out at the end of this month. And we'll probably be doing a giveaway for that as well. So definitely check that out, join the Discord, hope to see you over there, and without any further ado, let's get into it. Real quick to get us started, I did want to share a cheat sheet just for quick reference. So we're going to be covering all of the same information throughout the video. Everything's going to be, like I said, bookmarked, but this is just a quick visual guide. So if you want to go ahead and steal a screenshot, feel free. But this is just walking through for every kind of category of product, what kind of packaging that we're using, and then just a brief kind of text-based guide on what we'll be covering. All right, so now we're going to go through just real quick all the different materials that are going to be on our list, just so that you can see them. So, and you can reference the cheat sheet. You can reference the links down below. Obviously, we have penny sleeves. Those are super helpful for protecting our cards. Probably don't need any introduction. I think anybody in this space is going to be familiar with penny sleeves. We've got semi-rigid sleeves. So these are card savers. This is probably where I might have people disagreeing with me in the comments. There's a lot of different opinions. But what kind of turned me on to these was this is kind of what PSA, a lot of grading services are going to expect as far as protecting cards. There's a lot of people that ship things, plain white envelope, in top loaders, which top loaders are especially thick. They're great at protecting your cards, but you're adding a lot of bulk, especially if you're trying to send multiple of these in through a plain white envelope. I don't know how difficult it is to see, but you kind of have this this extra gap, and of course I can't get it. This extra gap, it adds a lot of bulk. It's also not as easily bent, which there's pros and cons to. I really like using the semi-rigid, the card savers. We're also going to need team bags and graded bags. And the main difference between these is you can fit a lot more in one of these graded bags. They've got a lot more give to them. The team bags are awesome for holding groups of cards, upwards of like 50 cards, or you can especially put singles in there with a card saver. They work really well. So we've got the team bag, we've got the graded slab bags. Card protectors are super helpful. There's a lot of different brands out there. These have worked great for me, the Ding Defend. Again, the links will be down below. There's a couple different ways that we use those, and we will go through that. As far as bigger things, what you're actually shipping in, you're gonna have envelopes, you're gonna need stamps, you're gonna want to have additional ounce stamps. Tip here to save time. So I made the mistake of trying to buy them at the kiosk, and I wanted 100, and it will literally keep you there for 8 minutes and print each one of these, all 100 individually. Don't do that. Talk to somebody at the counter, and you can get a nice sheet of the additional ounce stamps. It works a lot better than that. They're fine. They work the same. When it comes to your plain white envelopes, especially if you're selling on TCGPlayer, I really recommend having a windowed envelope, as well as something that has the self-sealing on the back. And really what I do with these is I just buy a bunch of them plain, and then I run them through my printer. Most printers, especially color printers, will have different settings. You can adjust them for different widths of paper. And I just run through and I print my logo on there. I do have, just as a fallback, because I've had situations where I've gone to grab one and it just wasn't working for me. I do have this kind of stamp that I got off of Vistaprint. It works well too. I had some advice that I found out there to start with this, and this was kind of a pain in the neck. So I definitely recommend just get the envelopes, print your logo on there. It's really simple, straightforward. I go through and I'll do that to like 100 envelopes at a time, have those just kind of sitting and available. Then we've got bubble mailers. So the 3 sizes I would recommend, and I've tried using other sizes, and these are kind of what work the best. We have the 000, we've got the 00, and then we've got the 1. So there is a single 0. I don't really see a use for it just based on the sizing. Again, we'll go through everything in the next part of the video. The things that I'm not going to necessarily like come through and show are boxes. We've got a lot of different size boxes. So specifically the 6x4x4, 6x6x4, 8x8x4, 8x8x8, and 15x10x8. As well as the 16x10x6, which again we'll go through here in a little bit. Outside of that, the only thing that I'd recommend, which is a little off camera right now, and it's not easy for me to just pull over, but definitely want to have a thermal printer when you're shipping out bigger products. If you're doing anything outside of what would fit inside of a plain white envelope, a thermal printer is going to save your life. I would just get one early on. I really recommend the Rollo printers, and the links to those are down below. They have a wireless version. I'm using the USB. I just have a workstation out here at my workspace, and I print off of that. Obviously, you'll want to have thermal labels. Working off of a roll is really efficient. And then a little bit different, not quite a material, but we do use pirate ship. You can save a lot on your shipping that way, and we'll walk through that as well, and kind of the way to ship things in the last section of this video. So to get us started, we're going to be packaging up to 20 cards and under $30 in a plain white envelope. So this might be if we have a single card that's under $30, might be we have 10 cards that are under $30. And the reason we use $30 is the cutoff is pretty much anything over that, it's kind of an unacceptable risk for us to send it without tracking. You might make the decision that, at $20, which TCGPlayer recommends, over $20, you should send tracking. They don't really require it until it's either $30 or $50. I feel like it's 50 because I think I've gotten orders before that were sent to me that didn't have tracking at 30 or over 30. So that for me is really kind of the cutoff. Anything over that, I really want to make sure that we have that additional protection tied to it. So real quick, we're going to go through, we'll be using our handy dandy energy cards. My methodology is that if the card is special enough, it should warrant kind of having an individual sleeve to it. Usually if, say the customer paid over like $1 for the card, it's officially something that I would consider a single. It's not really a bulk card as much. I'll put that in its own sleeve. I may have a bunch of those in their own sleeves. And if they're all individually sleeved, you can typically fit safely about like 7 cards into a card saver. You can fit ultimately up to about 10 cards into one of these. What I prefer to do for the bulk cards and to kind of save cost a little bit is we'll put up to 5 cards in a single penny sleeve. Now this, to me, it's the cleanest when they're all the same card. Sometimes what I'll do is if there's like, they ordered 3 of one type of card, 2 of another, they're the same card. I'll still penny sleeve them kind of based on what they are. And so the matching cards will all get into one sleeve. Roughly, we want to kind of stick under, and kind of the max that I'll try to do usually is if we had 2 penny sleeves, each with 5 cards in them. All right, so we've got 2 packs of 5 cards. We can go ahead and slot that into one of our card savers. And you can see how that definitely fits. It's nice and snug. It's protected. It's not going anywhere. If we had individual sleeves, they take up just a little bit more room. And so that's where you might only be able to get away with about 7. For the guidance on this, and for anybody referring to the guide, we stick to 20. But you may have to adjust a little bit depending on how full that's making your card savers. So real quick for the example here, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll keep this under 20. Now, that being said, right, so this one's got 2 sleeves, each with 5 cards, so this has 10 cards in it. For this other one, we're still gonna be under the 10 cards, but we've got one that's in its own penny sleeve. That is totally acceptable. And you'll see that it's not adding any, real extra girth. So we've got 5, 4, 1. Between the 2 of these, we're gonna be looking at 20 cards. And then here is going to be the beauty of it. So I've got a couple dummy TCGPlayer inserts. This is not an actual person, but this is how I like to fold these. So these are printed, optimized for the left window. So the user's information would be right here. You don't have to do any special label printing, God forbid, handwriting the customer's information. So I fold the top back on the line. I bring this section, the bottom half, up. And this is a way that we can kind of avoid having to use tape if it's unnecessary. So in this case, right, if I was just sending one of these, so say up to 10 cards, I would just plug that in here, fold it over. Now, while it's in the envelope, it might be able to shift a little bit one way or another. It's not really going to be able to go anywhere. And actually, real quick, before I forget the step, we will always put these with the card saver into a team bag. So it gives it that extra little bit of protection. And as an added step, what I really like to do to these is a lot of people have cards that they insert, which are probably honestly more effective. I just put a sticker on here on the outside. It's got a QR code to our site. So people who have shopped and found our products, they like our packaging over on TCGPlayer, might be inclined to come check us out on our regular site, where we've got a lot more product. So that being said, I'd be totally comfortable sending out this single pack, just fold it over, throw it into an envelope, it's good to go. Now in the event that we're trying to send 20, what I'll do is, we wouldn't really want these in here loose because they're gonna be able to rattle around and hit each other. I think presentation-wise, and kind of thinking of like the end user's experience, right? When they take this out, we're gonna put a little bit of tape on either side here, so it's kind of like one solid package, and then they're able to open this, get to their cards, flip it over, open this, get to their cards. Really, really nice and clean. And the trick to this is just making sure, and you don't even have to do it inside of that, but just know that, you wanna kind of line it up with the edges of your, what your envelope or your letter is gonna look like. Grab a little bit of, and you could use masking tape if you wanted to for this. I usually use regular tape. It doesn't have to be super precise, but I do like to make sure that it's all squared away and it looks nice and crisp. So plug a little bit of tape on either side. And now that's not going anywhere. We don't have to tape it to the invoice. We don't have to do anything crazy. We'll just go ahead and plug that in, fold it up, shove it in an envelope. Now, something worth noting is your traditional stamp, even a forever stamp, only covers up to 1 ounce. So you will want to, potentially weigh it out. So you may want to have a digital scale on hand so that you can check to see what that weight comes out to. In this case, we're already at 2 ounces, so we would definitely want to make sure we throw an additional ounce on that. If it was 2.1, we would actually have to put an extra, so a second additional ounce in addition to our forever stamp. And the benefit to this is it's kind of, for one, this is going to kind of smooth out the difference between those. When this is getting machined, it's not going to run into any issues. We've sent out hundreds of orders like this and never had a single complaint. If anything, we actually get a lot of really good feedback on how we've shipped this. So this is how we would ship up to 20 cards and under $30. The alternative, which we'll get to in a minute, is if it's over $30. So if these cards were worth so much that maybe it wound up being $31, $30.50, we would want to ship this with tracking, which is then going to justify upgrading to a bubble mailer. All right, moving right along. So now we're looking at shipping up to 50 cards or an order valued over $30 in a 000 bubble mailer. So here we've got our handy dandy energy. We've got 50 cards in here. All we've done is thrown this into a team bag. So that's going to kind of give it that little bit of water resistance. If some of the cards in here, so this is kind of assuming that this is a lot of bulk cards, we might wind up having some more valuable cards in here, and I would definitely go through and use the same guidance as the last video. Individual or up to 5 cards in individual penny sleeves, and then throw all of those penny sleeves into a team bag. Totally valid. It doesn't hurt to have all that extra protection involved here. Now, as far as putting it in our bubble mailer, we don't want to just shove it in here and call it good to go. We want to have some extra layer protection so that if this gets, stepped on, bent, it's not going to ultimately tweak the cards that are inside of it. For that reason, I really like using a card protector. Now, obviously, for these 000 bags, this is too much. I don't even think like you could fit. Okay, maybe if you were shipping somebody one of these, that's about all there's room for, and it's already kind of cutting into the edges a little bit. So what I like to do is I like to cut these right down the middle, and then we have kind of 2 that are, you'll see, the perfect size for what we're trying to do here. Covers up the cards nicely, leaves a little bit of a gap around the corners. It's part of the reason why we can't send booster packs the same way, because booster packs kind of extend out a little bit and they could still potentially be damaged. Which is no bueno. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and take some rubber bands. Now, I've used masking tape for this in the past as well. Rubber bands work just as well. Once it's inside the package, you don't really have a risk of it rattling around or going anywhere necessarily. So you could be fine to forego the rubber bands altogether and just stuff this in here with the protectors, because once you fold this down and take this adhesive off, it's going to really sandwich down. It's going to wrap around this. So the main thing is that we're getting kind of this hard protection on the cards themselves. Now, one thing that I'll run into is if you happen to have a sharp corner and you're trying to shove this in here, you'll find you might run into some resistance. It's going to kind of dig into. I've had where it's kind of cut through on packages before. The easiest way to work around that is you take your shipping label. So we just print all these out as if we're sending them all via envelope. But what we can do is we can go ahead and fold this over once, and then I will try to find kind of the middle spot so that it's clean. And then I will just kind of tuck it over that corner just a little bit. And you'll see that when we go to shove this in here now, it's not going to grab on this. It kind of smooths it out. That rigidness gives us something we can kind of push on, get it down in there. And now this is like super solid, extremely clean. When we go to print out our label, it's going to be the perfect size to just kind of fit on here. So we would just rip that off, fold it over, make sure it's nice and tight. And that is how we would ship up to 50 cards or an order over $30. So this is a little bit thicker, obviously being 50 cards. You could probably get away with doing a little bit more, but we're trying to keep things rounded out for the sake of this guide. You might only have a single card in there, which is totally fine. In that case, you're still going to want that, have that extra protection from the card protectors. And it's going to turn out right about the same size. Okay, next we're going to be covering how to ship up to 100 cards or 4 booster packs or 1 graded slab in a 00 bubble mailer. So we've got a couple different configurations that we can do here. This is where it kind of starts opening up to a couple different products. So similar to how we just shipped the last order, now we're not going to be cutting our card protectors, and pretty much how we're going to orient these, building out kind of those team bags, same as before. So 50, 50, we're up to 100 cards now. We can actually position these just like this. Now, if we're going to ship these like this, there isn't a lot of wiggle room, but in my mind, there is the slight potential that something, if it got bent just right, these could potentially try to overlap, which I'm not particularly fond of. So to kind of help prevent that from being a possibility, I like to just throw a little piece of tape on here between the two, flip them over, kind of do the same. And this is just going to make it to where it's pretty much impossible for that to happen. I've never had that happen, but just in my mind, I could foresee something like that. And this is going to keep it that extra little bit of rigidity. We're going to throw that in there. And then you can rubber band it. Honestly, though, with how tight it is, once you fit this down in here, that would just fit in like so. Now, with booster packs, if we're sending those out, this is probably a more extreme case. So Magic booster packs, these are specifically draft boosters. They have got 14 cards. If you were shipping Pokemon, you could definitely fit a lot more in a team bag. So really this guidance should be how many booster packs can you fit in a team bag, and that's kind of your limit. You can see, obviously, we couldn't do 2 of those side by side because that's going to kind of bleed out over the edge. We don't want to damage the booster pack. So we can fit whatever fits in one team bag here in between these, fit that into our bag. We're good to go from there. Additionally, graded cards can be shipped in the same way. So you would plug the graded card in here. You could fit a couple graded cards. You know, unless you've got some cheap ones that you're selling, you might not have orders for multiple, but it ultimately just kind of comes down to what can you reasonably fit inside of the package. Super clean. The biggest complaint I see when it comes to shipping things is excessive use of tape or someone having to use a knife to get to the product. The only way you'd have to use a knife with the way that we ship things is just if the bubble mailer happened to be particularly tight. And even then, you can usually just kind of grab the edge and rip them open. So it should be kind of avoiding that situation altogether, and kind of just feeds into overall presentation again. Now do note too that here our graded slab is inside of a graded slab bag. So you get, you know, it's not quite as much protection as you would get from like a whole dedicated case to it, but that's gonna help protect it from the elements. You're also giving it kind of a hard outer shell protection, and then it's got the actual bubble mailer itself protecting it as well. So you could fit more booster packs, but this is generally how you're going to be able to fit 100 cards, up to 4 or more booster packs, and graded slabs in a 00 bubble mailer. All right, now we're moving on to the beauty that is starter decks or starter kits, more or less. I didn't have a great name for this other than calling it small sealed product. And the beauty of it is that as long as you've got a #1 bubble mailer, you're pretty much good to go. Unless you particularly want to, especially if it's a real, you know, collector's item, you could wrap these in additional bubble wrap. The bubble mailer is already kind of providing some of that protection. And generally speaking, starter decks, people aren't after for the sake of it being a collector's item. They're usually after because they want the cards inside. They know full well what's inside. You know, you don't have the same kind of demand that you would with kind of more valuable cards, things like booster boxes, booster packs. Now, that's not necessarily to mean any of these things are going to get damaged, but they do already have a nice little protective case on them, the box that they come in. So the beauty of that makes it to where for a lot of these things, we're just going to ship it raw, just the way that it is. We're going to throw it in our bubble mailer. Obviously, we will print our shipping invoice, and that would be going in as well. And then just kind of fold this guy down, and it's getting plenty of protection. As it goes through the mail, haven't had any negative feedback on any of these guys. Now, I wanted to kind of showcase, because we do offer a couple different products. Obviously, the Lorcana is going to fit. The Beyblade X starter kits, which are a little bit bigger than standard Beyblades because they do come with a proto launcher inside. These will fit as well, like no issues. So that obviously is going to fit in there. The one caveat is when we're talking this being able to cover starter decks, it would not be able to cover something like a starter kit. I don't have any commander decks on hand to test with. So if you have a commander deck and you know it fits in a #1 bubble mailer, hit us up in the comments down below. But obviously, like a standard starter kit, a 2-deck Magic the Gathering kit is not going to fit inside of a #1. But with anything, when your use case kind of dictates, you'll just need to upgrade to the next bigger shipping medium that we cover in this guide. Okay, moving on. We're now looking at being able to ship up to 12 booster packs or 1 booster bundle in a 6x4x4 box. So again, going back to our earlier disclaimer, we're using Magic the Gathering draft boosters for this, which are a lot thicker, holding 14 cards. So it really comes down to how many boosters can you fit in an individual team bag, and then from there, how many of those can you fit inside of a box. So this is kind of ensuring that we have some more conservative estimates when we're going through and building this out. Now, boxes are pretty straightforward. In this case, you know, if we're going to plug in and we're going to try to just absolutely fill this with a number of booster packs that we can fit, there isn't really any extra room. We don't need to add any additional bubble wrap or you know, any sort of shipping paper. That's going to be pretty solid on its own. Everything's in a team bag, so it should be protected from any elements that it could possibly encounter along the way. Now, if we were shipping a smaller volume and there was some air included here, you know, I would probably opt first for trying to kind of hold them together, wrap them in some bubble wrap and secure that with some tape, ship that off. If there's still space, that would be when you'd want to rip off some shipping paper, go ahead and crumple that up, include that in there. And it really is just kind of like, it doesn't need to fill the space, it's just kind of going to add as additional cushioning and really putting more air inside of the box to protect things. This is also the perfect size for about one booster bundle. You wouldn't really be able to fit a whole lot in there besides that, and I would just make sure that that's wrapped in bubble wrap. All right, before we get into the booster boxes, I do want a disclaimer. Don't get too excited. This is a fake box of Evolving Skies. We're actually going to be using this for a future video where we go over how to identify fake cards. So definitely make sure that you like and subscribe so that you're tracking on when that video comes out. Should be pretty cool. Should be really helpful for anybody in this, especially if you're buying private collections and you don't want to accidentally spend hundreds of dollars on fake products. So that being said, we're now looking at how would we package up to 2 booster bundles or 1 booster box. Obviously, this could also be scaled for booster packs, but once somebody's purchasing kind of this volume, you're probably already selling booster boxes. So for these, you would just wrap it in bubble wrap, secure that in here, and you'll see this is the perfect size to where you don't have to do anything extra. It's pretty much made for booster boxes. 2 booster bundles, 2 wrapped in bubble wrap is going to fill up roughly about the same amount of space. So this one's really straightforward, kind of purpose-built for sending out single booster boxes. And this is again, the 6x6x4. All right, getting to the end of it now. Now we're looking at an 8x8x4 box, and this is really for our single ETBs. Now every box is a little different for these, particularly this orientation has worked best. If I'm going this way, I just feel like it's a little too close. I think it's just the same on either side, but personally I feel better shipping them this way. We would wrap this in bubble wrap before we drop it in there, include our shipping invoice on top. And really these boxes are like purpose built for ETBs. You can ultimately fit whatever you would need to inside of these, but kind of the same, and I won't build them out just for the sake of saying, but the 8x8x8 is for fitting 2 ETBs. The 15x10x8 is very specific for 4 ETBs. If you're looking at premium collection boxes, so the ultra premium collections or the EX boxes that are out there, that's what the 16x10x6 is ideally for. You can typically fit 2 EX collection boxes or 1 UPC. It's a little tricky because every UPC ultra premium collection box is a little bit different when it comes to its dimensions. So I would definitely double check, especially if you're going to be, you're purchasing a bunch of a specific box. Figure out what those dimensions are and ensure whatever boxes you have on hand are going to work for that. You definitely don't want to be in a situation where you have orders pouring in, you've got product that's officially sold, and now you've got to wait, 3 or 4 days or longer to actually get the boxes you need to ship that out. Because especially on TCGPlayer, you have that delivery window, and if you're already just sitting on your hands for 4 days, it's probably not going to go well. You may wind up having to refund that order, which is not a fun day. So that's really kind of wraps up all of the boxes at that point. So then we'll go into talking a little bit about shipping. All right, moving on to shipping. I'm going to just do a quick run through on this. I don't want to spend too much time. Every company is going to handle their shipping a little bit differently. We run a Shopify, and so we actually have a direct integration with Pirate Ship, which is really nice. It kind of streamlines things to where from an order, we can click, take this over to Pirate Ship. It'll open up the page, already plug in all of the customer's information. It saves everything that you have, all the different packages. The most you might have to do is adjust the weight a little bit. So you definitely want to weigh everything before you send it out so you're not overpaying. And even worse, if you're underpaying, when the shipping provider checks the weight of your package, there's the potential that they're going to send it back to you, which is ultimately going to lead to delays, customer frustration, a lot of things you don't want to have to deal with. Pirate Ship isn't the only company out there. There's a couple others. This was just kind of what I'd seen recommended, and I decided to roll with. So let me show you just real quick kind of what our workflow looks like. So within Pirate Ship, you would go to Ship. You can choose a single thing, or it can automatically import everything over from Shopify. TCGPlayer doesn't have a direct integration with really anybody. So the cool thing here is if you copy their address information, here, just when you open this page, I can do a Control-V, and it's going to automatically paste in the address. I don't even have to click on that, which is really nice. So it'll plug that in. You'll get to say where you're shipping it from if you have multiple locations. From there, you can choose your package details. So here we've got all of our things saved out, along with kind of like our default weights, what we've typically found, for the items that we ship, what things kind of come out to. Now, it's going to ultimately vary with every individual thing. When in doubt, you should definitely double check your weights to make sure you're sending the right thing. So in this case, let's say we're sending, just kind of like the absolute minimum here. We could click Modify Package, and we wouldn't mess with that. This is where we would change the weight. And then you have the option to tack on additional things. So you could add extra insurance. You could update the save package so it's going to change moving forward. In this case, we're not going to do any of that. I'm just going to go ahead and click Get Rates. And it'll take a second, but essentially it's going to go out and it's going to find the, nope. It's going to find the cheapest option for us. So we could look at the best, the cheapest, specifically USPS, UPS, or we can do a big drop down. We can see what all of our options are if we wanted to stick with a particular provider. Generally speaking, you're going to find USPS Ground Advantage is going to be the cheapest way to ship, especially when we're dealing with bulk cards, the tight margins that we're already used to. You're going to be pretty much trying to ship it the cheapest way every time. One caveat here, which is, everybody kind of has their favorite shipping provider, but it's really hard to argue just actual facts and numbers. Now, if I wanted to, sometimes UPS does actually come out a little bit cheaper than Ground Advantage. Depends on the days, and there's a lot of factors involved. This pricing will change for every individual package on any given day. So don't think that, oh, cool, I can always ship this thing Ground Advantage for $4.25. That is not the case. It also depends on how far you're shipping it, where it's going, or other considerations. But the biggest thing for me is this carrier liability. So this is kind of like the default insurance that you'd be getting using a particular shipping provider. And for UPS, you'll see the default here is $20 carrier liability versus USPS provides a $100 carrier liability. Generally, if my package that I'm shipping is really only $20, $30, I'm really not worried about it. Honestly, I have a UPS store closer to my home than the USPS. So I might opt for the UPS if that's the case, if it's cheaper, if I don't want to drive all the way to the post office on a given day. But generally speaking, the USPS Ground Advantage is going to be the way to go. Sometimes even if it's an extra couple dollars, that extra $100 of carrier liability, especially if you're sending sealed product, which could be $50, $60, well over $100, $200 worth in value, that's just default coverage that you're getting without having to purchase anything additional. So just really want to emphasize that. It does give you a little option here to switch to UPS and what that difference would be, whether it's more or less. You do need to enter a ship date, which assuming is probably going to be the same day or the next day as you're filling this out. And then you go ahead and buy a label, and then you'd be able to print it out on your thermal printer from there. So those are just a couple considerations. Things to know when you're going through shipping. Obviously, there are different solutions out there that would differ a little bit from this, but it would be generally the same workflow. So that's it. Appreciate you watching all the way through the video up to this point. I hope this has been a really good resource for you. Let us know down below if you have any particular shipping questions. I know this is a lot of information that we just covered. Also, let us know what other kind of content you'd be interested in seeing. As we're working on growing out this channel, we're going to be doing a lot more. I've already got a lot of concepts around card grading, some interesting kind of challenge videos I'm thinking of throwing out there, showing kind of how to spot fakes, things along those lines. So if you have any particular thoughts, anything you'd like to see, definitely throw that down below in the comments. Also, like and subscribe. It's going to do a lot to help us kind of grow this channel and build a community. Again, check out our Discord. That link is going to be down below as well. Join our growing community of TCG business owners and collectors. Get a lot of the latest news kind of just funneled in through there, as well as check out. We've set up something called Porygon's Game Corner, which is pretty cool. You can check in daily to get coins. You can spend those on battle items inside of the shop, and the battle items will give you a temporary roll, which will actually increase your chances of winning our monthly giveaway, which is pretty cool. And it's all Pokemon themed. It's pretty exciting. That being said, we're going to be continually doing monthly giveaways. It's a good thing to check out if you want free stuff. It's going to kind of rotate through too. We're not always going to be doing Pokemon. It's really excited for the Gundam sets coming out here in July, so expect to see some of that. We're working on a Bandai partnership. We're starting to stock Gundam as well, so if anybody's interested in model kits or the Gundam card game, it would be a good place to be. We're also stocking Digimon. We've got a Hasbro partnership, so we've got Beyblade, Furby, lots of different things, a lot of 90s retro nostalgia worth checking out. Additionally, if you're interested in kind of growing your business, you need to be able to source product. We do have a Patreon and a wholesale program available, and there will be links to that on our Discord if you want to check that out. But that being said, awesome. Appreciate you guys so much for sticking through to the end, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, guys.